This conference will now be recorded.
Fantastic. Welcome to the infrastructure meeting for today. And we will show that we are starting at 4:30. If I could just have the minutes reflect that all four councilors of the committee, myself, Councilor Moore, Councilor Arnold, and Councilor Best are all here for the meeting, also staff. So if I could get a on the approval of the minutes, was there any changes that anyone saw that there needed to be made from the minutes that were received? Any changes? No changes, they'll stand approved. Going once? Okay, all right, no changes, so that will show, reflect as approved. If I could get a motion of the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda for September 26, 2022, along with approval of the August 22nd minute.
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Project updates discussion.
Okay, some updates. Those two pictures that you see there, they started the wastewater treatment plant dewatering project. You see over there, they're doing the grading and then locating utilities on the right picture. The left picture is one of the utilities they found, but that site is where the new dewatering plant will be going. Next slide. And then on the left, that's some concrete curb that they poured on the Atkinson project. The water line, they're doing the services, so we're back to working on the roadway. So this week they're doing concrete and should start the roadway work, but Atkinson is going. And then the picture on the right, you can see there's a little basket on top of the tower. There's a man in that basket with the cutting torch, and he's slowly gonna cut it piece by piece and bring it down.
I can promise you one person that man is not. That is not me. I promise you that.
But they're just basically cutting it, then it drops to the bottom of the tank.
Wow. How big sections did you cut?
About 10 by 10s.
Dropping it down into the interior of
It
the
just
tank.
falls, yeah.
And then what?
And then what?
And then they'll get the crane and then they'll slowly pull it out piece by piece and put it in the
I
truck.
see. Okay.
But it's easier. The thing is, there's no flat place to, so at least that way you can slowly get it out, but it's gonna be at least a 4-week process.
All right.
And you can cut it, you cannot grind it because it's lead paint.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I stand for any questions on the project dashboards.
Questions,
Or
comments?
any other projects that we got going.
Questions from any other counselors? And I should have said earlier, let the minutes reflect also that Counselor Foster's here with us.
This one here?
As well.
Back to the first picture.
What's that?
Okay, that's the sewer line that they found.
That's what.
Questions? From the committee? I don't have any that haven't been answered.
Okay.
They're talking with you, so yes. Next, all right, so moving forward with the airport infrastructure update.
Afternoon, Mr. Chair, councilors. Start with the list that you have in your packet. The terminal parking lot, we're getting very close to doing something with that. The design work is done and they'll be presenting that stuff to us pretty quickly. And then doing the bid documents and going out to bid next. I think when we get closer to getting the bid documents ready to go, I think I would like to bring those through this committee, let you guys see them, let you look at them. We'll probably do all of that before we actually go to bidding. To make sure that everybody's happy with what we're doing out there on the parking lot. But if you've tried to park at the airport lately, you're probably not happy with that. Our parking lot stays pretty dang full all the time. The airport drainage study is complete. with review in progress, the east side water line, and that a notice to proceed to be issued around October 1st. And then you'll see construction began. Rehabilitation of phase 1 and phase 2 of the apron. The drawings are 90% in review for phase 1, and we're just beginning to work on the phase 2 design. The San MRO is under construction. It began August 15th, and the same with the water line. I think Lou's Army about a week out, maybe.
Yeah, we'll finish this week.
Okay. Almost done with that. Airport master plan update, in the process of choosing the technical advisory committee, and preliminary inventory is in progress. They'll be out next week to do some on-site inventory work. They've been doing some survey work already, so it's on its way. The preliminary engineering report for only 1735 rehabilitation in progress. Other projects that are kind of the outliers or oddballs, if you will, that are not FAA projects and such, BLM tanker base. We're working with them to expand their tanker base. We have a meeting with them next week. The rope hanger, we still hasn't changed a whole lot. That we've selected the site, and they're Armstrong is preparing the scope of work for design. The industrial park master plan hasn't moved a lot further. That's an EDC project where they're working with Armstrong. Rebranding of the terminal. We're still waiting on the final work to go up over the cafe service counter. The ILEA HVAC upgrade, we've been working through that to get a notice to proceed, and it should go to the finance committee in October. I noticed to let the date on, sorry, but it should be at the finance committee next week. Questions?
We had let me ask this for committee members, any questions? I have several I'd like to talk about, but I'm going to give you an opportunity first. Councilor Foster.
Where is the site selected for the rub here?
Over near the old water tower, so you just south of the water tower in that triangle. It would be just over to the east of where the water tower is.
I think that was the site where we talked about very first when we bought it. So it is going to be outside the fence.
We did a lot of tire kicking, or people working with tire kickers on trying to site it inside the fence, and we couldn't get any commitment. So it really comes down to getting it up as quickly as we can so that we can use it. And that's why we picked that site.
Okay, so we're going to be using it pretty much just as a warehouse, not a.
Warehouse or even industrial.
Well, and I think there's still some discussions to be had in some of that as well, as we walk through that. Since we're on that subject there, the funding for the rub hanger infrastructure and everything, has that been discussed yet? Or
I'm waiting for, we do have $1 million in the budget for that. And then, of course, part of the price with RUB was to, was it 200,000 for
them to come, right?
something like that. So part of that's already included in the purchase price that we've already paid, and then about $1 million to do the rest of it. So that's what I'm waiting on at this point, is that full scope of work to do a task order to design the ground part of it.
Okay.
The horizontal part of it.
All right. Scott, if you can give me any kind of update, I've sort of held off on this conversation, but I don't feel like we can hold off forever on having this conversation. I went to the governor last year during the legislative process. Juan Fuentes went with me, and Judy Stubbs, Councilor Stubbs, went with me, sat down one-on-one with the Madam Governor and discussed the potential of $5 million. And what we could do in our good discussions with her is she wanted, of course, us to have a bite in the game as well to get something done. Her desire was to see jobs created quickly. And I know we've got several projects for consideration going on there that eventually we will be able to get jobs in. But she was, as we discussed this with her, she wanted to go there and try to get something absolute as immediate as possible with this $5 million. So has there been any conversations with staff or anything on that?
We have not really made any decisions. Obviously, We feel like it's such a large amount of money with the 5 million. And then my thoughts on are, we get 5 million plus, it's going to work out to probably 5.5 million by the time we get it all. Bipartisan infrastructure legislation money that we get a little bit over $1 million every year for 5 years. We've gotten we haven't gotten a grant yet because we didn't have a project. So what we did is we were able to roll it over. So we rolled that over for the 2022 money. The 2023 money is about to come out. So we'll do the same with that if we don't have a project. But my thoughts on that is grand total, you're over $10 million worth of funding for infrastructure. And so I believe a serious conversation should be had, including staff and counselors and probably the mayor, and see what our priorities are. I don't feel like it is doing that funding justice to go, well, I've got a little one here and I've got a little one there. Let's take a longer look at it. And what do we want to do with that in the next 5 years? And if there's going to be some other possible legislative capital outlay, I think we should probably take a look at what that would look like as well.
Okay. All right. And
that is also, Bud and I discussed it for AAC, and DAC wants to have input in that. So it will be on the agenda for October the 11th.
Airport Commission.
Yep.
What date is that?
October 11th at 1:30 at the airport.
At the Air Center. Okay. Okay. And I know with a lot of, and I don't want to stretch our purpose as the infrastructure committee by any means, but I think that because it deals with the infrastructure that we have, they're dealing with the buildings that we have, the land leases, aeronautical, non-aeronautical, with the leases and everything. I know that the legal committee handles the leases itself, but I know from the last meeting, there was some conversation that was brought up about the FAA and their regulations, and I had requests from you, so you gave them to me today, just got them. But if you could talk a little bit, because it's been said on several occasions that there's nothing that's been presented showing that the FAA is giving any of these requirements that are requiring us to bring things up to market value. So can you sort of share a little bit of maybe the conversations that you've had with the FAA concerning their requirements on FMV? Sure.
So what you got in your hand are 2 letters, one from May 19th, 2021, which is the result of a compliance visit that our compliance officer did in April 21. And so that goes into depth. I'm not going to get too terribly deep into it, but I'll answer any questions that you have on it. But basically what they found on our non-aeronautical leases is the FAA did not believe that our non-aeronautical leases were at fair market value. Bottom line really in being able to prove that is to have a recent appraisal on those leases. We did not have that. The second letter of July 28th was a follow-up letter to that, so it goes back and talks about some of the same things, and it adds the AVEX facility to that list as well, which of course the AVEX, as of the end of this month, they will be out of the Air Center. But that's been an issue that's in our, it's in our grant assurances when we take grants for assistance from the FAA, that we will rent our non-aeronautical activity land, so outside the fence, those things, the industrial, commercial lands and buildings at fair market value. It's not required always to get an appraisal, so we haven't done it. But when you have a conflict and people begin to say, well, this is too high, this is too low, and you can't come to an agreement, it's certainly advisable. We believe we're probably at a point where we need to do that just to settle some of the dust, that over some of the arguments that we have. On the air side, inside the fence for aeronautical activity, fair market value is not required, but a reasonable, what they call it, fair and reasonable value is required. So those are 2 different standards, and they're defined in a document that the FAA puts out on the appraisal standards. So and the same thing is true there. you can charge less than fair market value for aeronautical activities, but in the end, you really can't go back out and charge too much, and you need to charge the same across the board where you can. Now, that doesn't mean a lease that you had for 15 years because it's at a lower value. You have to charge the next one at the same lower value because time takes care of those things and makes those changes. But as you move forward, if you're doing 2 leases today, those 2 should be equitable and for the category that they're in. That's really the situation that we're in. So as we start to look at both the aeronautical and the non-aeronautical, really the tiebreaker and the thing that settles it is to go get the appraisal for those properties.
Counselor Arndt?
Is there any way, because I don't see a copy of that information, is it?
No, I just got it. I just asked for it this afternoon. I'll make sure that there's copies made.
Okay, because it was kind of hard to know what he was referencing what else.
Of the letters, but I don't have
Yes, and I'll make sure all the committee members get it. I just got these just a little while ago. I just asked for them earlier.
Question while you're looking
Yes, ma'am.
about the appraisal. What is the hold-up process of us needing those? Why are
I
we?
didn't understand that.
This one, well, please. One.
That we don't have any. Why, there's always, I know why we're doing it now, because there's, everybody's saying that they're getting charged too much, they're getting charged too little, so I understand. So now are we looking into, is there a whole 10-year process? Everything takes forever. To get an appraisal, to get those things that we want to charge fair?
Fair market value.
Right.
Yes, that we want to charge them, are we going to, what's the process for getting it?
So aeronautical is a little more specialized and it's more difficult to find appraisers that do that. Of course, there is a guide to do it
Inside the fence.
inside the fence. So there is a guide the FAA puts out for the appraisers to look at and to understand that. So if they understand it, then you can use any appraiser that's licensed. On the commercial side, it's purely that. It's any commercial appraiser that can do it. So yes, we're starting to look and see what direction we might want to go and start looking at, who the appraiser might be. My suggestion would be that we find somebody neutral that's not on the side of anybody local. I mean, and I don't mean to point fingers at anybody, but that's the fairest way to do it, is that you find somebody who has no skin in the game. And appraisers typically have rules to go by, so they're going to be pretty honest anyway. But if you have someone that isn't associated with us, I think that's probably the best way to go.
And that's the problem we're having with this stuff out, non-aeronautical, the stuff outside the fence.
Right. That's more.
More about those ones, not the ones inside, but more about.
Correct. That's more of our problem was the non-aeronautical than the aeronautical. Because aeronautical is not required to have the fair market value. It just has to be fair and reasonable.
Somebody said we're losing money because because of not having the appraisal, or losing, I don't know if that's the right word, but.
That, my opinion, yes, and that's just my opinion, that our rates are too low. And that's the FAA's opinion as well, but, people will tell you all the time, the FAA will not give you a rate for your land or your buildings, and they won't. But they'll say, they have a feel for it because they know what it is at other airports.
They're looking at airports every day.
Exactly. And so they if they tell you that it's too low, it probably is, because they're not going to stick their neck out and go, hey, we think you're $5 low. They're not going to do that.
Well, we're not going to, and it's not this committee's job to determine those prices. But I'm just trying to, I know that the mayor has had questions about, one in particular, thing that we went up on the rent 400%. And I think that through the negotiations came down to about a 30%.
48 is what I calculated.
48, okay. And but I just I had made a promise to him that, if we were needing to have answers, regardless of what those answers were, that I'd come to the committee and we'd hear about this. So on the one letter there that you see that is dated July 28, committee members, if you'll look at that, as on July 28, at the very end of section 4 or paragraph 4, the very last sentence is, the non-aeronautical land is required to receive fair market value for said lease area. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure. And then where's that other one? I needed the copy of the one I handed you. And then the ones that one that comes directly. Well, who's got my copy? It's got the yellow one. Okay, thank you. Sorry. On the one that is from the excerpt of the FAA compliance guidance letter for 2018 on what is fair market value, the second page at the top says 7 in bold print, FMV, which is fair market value, is the required standard when an airport sells or leases on aeronautical property. And when you go down through here and start looking, there's also the FMV is not the standard for setting aeronautical rates and charges, but it gives you a better understanding of where they're coming from. So I'm just trying to educate. I wanted to educate myself if indeed FAA was not telling us something, or we weren't getting direction from them. I wanted to know where we were going to get our from. So I'm trying to sort of maybe get us all at a basis where we know what the expectation is from FAA and what is not. So I just needed that clarification. Okay. Committee members. Councilor Beth, Councilor. No.
So what is the percentage of the non-aeronautical to the inside the fence? What?
It's, I don't know what the percentage is, but we have roughly 4,000 acres inside the fence.
No, I mean, when it comes to leasing out, is there a formula? So you charge this for the non-aeronautical, do you go up so many percentage for the inside? Or do you just depend on what the
It's
FFA?
usually lower on the inside, honestly. And the reason why, because the FAA is looking for two things. So for non-aeronautical at an airport, the only reason to have it is revenue generating. It's to generate revenue for the airport to make the airport more sustainable. And also because they don't want the airport to be in the position of competing with commercial real estate outside the airport. So, that's really what you want. I mean, if you had storage, for example, and you have a building that you're going to allow someone to do personal storage in, you really should be storing at about the same price as U-Haul, so that you're not competing. That's just one example. If you have a warehouse, the same thing. It should be about the same price as a warehouse in town. The aeronautical, on the other hand, they pay other fees because they may pay landing fees, they may pay float fees, easy for me to say. They may pay parking fees, those type of things. So there's other revenue that comes to the airport in addition to the lease, as well as the aviation business is what the FAA wants to incentivize. So if it's fair with other airports, if it's fair within the airport itself, you got one FBO, you're charging X number of dollars, you should be charging the other FBO around the same number.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Foster.
This isn't on that. It goes back to projects out of the base. Where we know where we stand on the ARF, the 500,000 for the designs and stuff for the ARF facility.
I don't.
Mr. Chairman, Councilor, I believe when I spoke to Mike and the fire department, they have to work on finding an architect who will help them with planning and design for it. So that's what that phase of that project is. They're hoping to use one of the existing firms that the council awarded in the on-call list. So that's what they're at.
I just know that we've got that 500,000. We have another legislative session coming up. If they start showing that we're using that funding, then it's kind of hard to go ask for other funding.
Okay. And this wasn't meant for a lengthy discussion, but just to help us better understand, especially as we move forward with some of these projects with this major money that we're getting coming in, it gives us the ability to better advance. We know which direction we're wanting to go in. So, all right. All right. Anything else? Okay. Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it. Let's move forward to the water ordinances of chapter 26.
Robert Glenn.
Good afternoon. This is the fun stuff we're going to do today. Mr. Chairman, if you want, we can just go through this whole thing, or we could break it into 2 sections, 3 sections. Until the time
If you want to start talking through it, and if I feel we need to stop and look at it, we'll stop.
Because the way I've set the questions up, I can start doing the ordinances, changes in that to this point. So we're looking at updating the ordinance, and basically this is going to be a repeal and replace, because a good portion of this ordinance is older than I am.
No.
And it's not working for us. We found when we were going through doing the handbook for the billing office that there was too much stuff in there that we're just not doing anymore. So what I put together is 18 questions that I need some direction from you guys on how you'd like to go. And the first one is this committee comfortable working on this with me? Typically ordinances go through legal, but this has a lot of infrastructure stuff in it.
This is dealing with infrastructure, and in the past, before you came, not everything that was dealt with that way went through legal. We had, usually it was the specific departments dealt with it. A lot of times it would be eventually sent to legal for that committee to look at it at the very end, but usually starts within the committee.
Okay, so next slide.
Bye-bye, Sally.
So just so everybody knows, I did a lot of taking of stuff from the Alto Lakes Water and Sanitary Sewer District over in Lincoln County. This is a very well-written ordinance that they did, and it's been through a couple of legal challenges already and has come out very good on the other side. So that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. Next slide. So we've already gone through number one. So we'll work through this here and then we'll take stuff to other committees as we need to. Number two, would you guys like specific definitions in this ordinance that reflect just stuff in this ordinance?
Yes.
And I think the best thing, number one, is start by an explanation of what this ordinance is.
This is what runs the water, sewer, and wastewater departments.
I don't think you're able to have a strong ordinance without definition. Definition is what allows you to have this. That's what's going to hold up in court as to what we meant by whatever. Now, I personally don't think that you need to go to the length of trying to what is already statutorily required. We go by statutorily. We're trying to redefine all of that. It's not necessary, but I think the definitions are, and I think Kevin's in here. He probably could chime in on that. The definitions are critical to moving forward.
I've been through quite a few updates and rewrites. I would say not only are definitions critical, but they are absolutely necessary, especially to stand up over time to any kind of challenge, even the simple challenge of redefining terms, which happens from time to time.
Right.
Alto Lakes has 5 pages of definitions, and they're quite basic on just what goes on in this ordinance.
Okay. Number 3.
Authority to enforce would rest with the utility director, the department's deputy superintendents, the water conservation specialist, which we'll talk about a little bit later, code enforcement, plumbing inspector, in the peace officer, fire marshal, deputy fire marshal, and I left out the pre-treatment specialist. Is everybody okay with that?
Well, I don't know that we can say okay or not okay until we see what.
Well, right now it is enforced by animal control, meter readers, and somebody else that has no clue. That's who is right now empowered to enforce our water ordinance.
That is weird and heck.
Yeah, so
What was the last
That's
one?
in
You said?
1965.
Did you leave off?
the pre-treatment specialist, that is they do pre-treatment enforcement out at wastewater.
That's funny.
So we can move on to the next slide. Number 4, with enforcement, do we want to go with fees or fines? Fines are something that's punitive. Fees are something that is reimbursable. Fines have to go through the municipal court. Fees are something that can be assessed. The way we assess a fee is we go in and figure out how much something's costing us to enforce it, and that's how you set the fee. It has to be based on actual numbers, how many hours it takes to do something, that kind of stuff. And that would be just assessed onto the water bill. But along with a fee, if somebody wants to appeal a fee, who do they appeal it to?
Just one moment. Is that your stuff there?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, why don't, is that okay, Kristen, for him to, I'd like you to come on up to the table with us, join the conversation. So, thank you. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Hey, good, please.
So some of the places that you can appeal it to, you could appeal your finding to the utility director, the city manager. There's a lot of places that I've worked at that have an arbitration board that they can appeal a lot of stuff to within the water ordinance. Any kind of billing issues, fees, any of that stuff could go to a water board.
Could you appeal, Mr. Chair?
Mhm.
Could you appeal to the actual council?
That would be the ultimate. And if you guys want it to go directly to the council, that would be fine. Or if you want it to go to an intermediary before it goes to the council.
So depending on how this all shakes out and what is presented for passage, if something was passed, often what we've had, and I don't know that we've seen, have we had much quasi judicial since y'all, have we had very many? I just can't remember how many.
I think we've had like 2 or 3.
But especially with your planning and zoning commission, they will make a ruling and the person can let it be just dropped there and it's just done, or they can make the appeal and it comes to the council. And actually the council even has the authority as well to appeal the decision of it. And that's happened a couple of times, not often, but there have been times where we not necessarily agreed with the commission and we've appealed ourselves. So having that same kind of continuance, I think would be wise. Yes, Councilor Foster.
This is all very arbitrary right now, but if you put something specific in, that's the difference between fines and fees. One of the things and when you said pre-treater, it clicked for me. A while back, we were talking about hooking Leprino directly to their sanitation line directly to our wastewater. And one of the things that hit me is they have the ability to dump acid. I mean, they have thousands of gallons of tanks of acid. And in case of a spill, we wouldn't want that acid going straight to our sewer plant because it would kill our beds.
Sure.
And our pre-treater would be the first person that would notice that. So that would be the difference between a fine and a fee. We're not, I don't think, able to, I mean, since we're talking municipal code, there's a limit to fines that we're allowed to. $500 and such, where killing one of our beds would be a lot higher than $500. It would really hurt us a lot more. So a fee makes a lot more sense because, we could fine them $500. It could cost us, I don't know what, replacing a bed. We're talking tens of thousands probably to get one of our beds active again with. And so that's what I'm looking at. So us trying to differentiate between the two, that's what we're looking at. Fines limited to $500. A fee, we could assess actual costs of the damage done.
And the fees would go to the council to be approved by resolution for the basic fees for stuff. But again, the fee is based on actual costs to the utility.
All right. Move forward to the next.
Let's see. Number 5, do we want to allow commercial or residential accounts with private wells to connect to our system? We found this out on Sycamore 2 weeks ago. We were out working on a residential service. We could not get the water to quit flowing. Did not figure out what was going on. The valves were working good. Found the resident that we were working with, their check valve that they had in there had failed, and they were actually pumping water from their well into our system. So there's two ways to take care of that. Either you say, if you have a well, you cannot connect to our system at all. Or if you have a well that we require the required backflow preventers that are available, they're called RPZs. And they have to have that connected just past the meter. And then it has to be tested annually.
Okay. Comments, questions, concerns? Council.
I think it should not be connected completely because obviously if their check valve hadn't been looked after in so long, and we're so far behind on stuff that we check anyway with our people, we'd never get out there and get it checked.
EPA.
So I think you just need to stay away from being connected within.
Mr. Mayor?
How much do the RP valves cost?
It depends on the size, but they are pricey.
Probably a 2-inch or, inch and a half or 2 inch. It's getting by about 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500 to, I would say, we replaced the one out at Mystic. And that was,
Oh, yeah. No,
that was 25,000 for a 6-inch.
6-inch. You don't want to have anybody have 6-inch. I was looking at the residential things. That's one of the things I ran into at South Springs. And a number of things there, but people think that a regular check valve works, but a regular check valve does not work. It's a flapper valve works a little bit, but it doesn't. And then if you even have one with a spring on it, they don't work as well as they should. So you have to have a positive shutoff to that.
And that's what those RPZs do.
Yeah, and the other thing is that those aren't the things that go up above the ground. That's just in for.
Those are vacuum breakers.
Yeah, that's why we would require them to test them annually. Whoever submitted a backflow preventer to us, we'd require that they submit the report. We'd have to keep tracking annually that they would get a report back to us that they had tested.
There's one of my neighbors in South Springs did that, and I mean, his water bill was huge, but he was pumping back into Brenda water. And so Brenda water had less pressure than we did. So he pumped a lot of water back. His plumber hooked it up backwards. Somehow he hooked it up wrong. And he had a hell of a water bill that he had to pay. Because he was actually watering South Brenda water. But you don't want anybody in your system.
Yeah, EPA frowns on this a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're not in control of who's in your system. I would think that you don't want to do that either.
Yep.
So how did
Go ahead, please.
how did the person that you said, how did they get connected to it? If we don't know how. I mean, you know what I mean? If we can control it, how did that person have their flow thing in there?
Happened 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And back then, that's all they had to do was have a check valve. That's all that was required.
A lot of people do that because when you lose your water in your house, if you're on Brenda water and you lose it, then a lot of times they used to take time to put it back. People would hook up, their well to that, but they turn off the valve when they do it. You just have to know and remember to turn off the valve so it doesn't go backwards. Or else if you pump more pressure than that, you'll be put, and if not, if it's the other way, you can push water back down your well. If you don't have a check valve on your well that holds. So you can be filling up Mother Earth.
I'm into the thing of no connection still then, if that's kind of where we are.
Yes, Councilor Foster.
Because I know the ordinance was brought forward, but I don't think it was passed. Our city residents still can put a well in their backyard.
That's correct.
That's correct.
And so, but we only for landscaping purposes is what the major reason for it. And so we don't want them hooking up that well to their house. But in cases where municipal water systems have gone down, in Artesia or Portales namely for one, I had a friend that had a well in his backyard. He hooked up his house, hooked up his neighbor. They ran hoses to it and they shut off the water to the city. So they didn't supply the water to the city, but for emergency purposes, they can do it. But we don't want, I don't think we want other wells hooked up to where we can be feeding. That's
where we have some of the commercial in the middle of downtown have wells, so they still actively.
Some of those wells are still working. Most people just keep them for irrigation.
That's what I thought.
They're all over there.
But last check, I think we had 1,000 wells inside the city limits.
There's fun. But see, you know, we're pumping out of the artesian aquifer. They could be up above it. So you're not even getting, might not even be getting the same water you're pumping. I mean, even our water, the city water's been treated. This other water doesn't have any chlorine in it. So, because it'll never have been treated. If anytime you have city water, it'll be treated. Brenda water is treated. But we're a lot, our city water is a lot more stable than Brenda water. I mean, from Johnny Jones put that thing together in 74, they haven't done very much maintenance to it since then, really. I mean, other than fix leaks. They took all their valves out for fire plugs and everything else that they had in. So
We'll continue with your presentation and we'll see what.
Okay. Shall we continue to have the customer be responsible for all connections and plumbing on their side of the meter? The way it is now?
Yes.
well, it's not always
As
that way,
opposed to what?
right?
98% of the time.
No,
There's always those few exceptions out there that we run into.
see, I remember.
All right, continue here to number 6. I'm sorry, 7.
Shall we require check valves and cutoffs on all new construction and when the service is replaced or upgraded? One of the things that we talk about, and we'll talk about in the cross connection and stuff, is we're trying to prevent the black flow of any kind of water from any service into our system. The new meter cans that we're ordering and putting in have a check valve built into them, along with the cutoff. What we're talking about doing is along with that, when you purchase one of these new meter cans for new construction, you'll get the meter can that we connect to. It has all the guts on the inside of it we set the meter in, has the backflow preventer, the city cutoff that we can lock on or off. And then it comes out and we will attach a customer's cutoff on the outside of it. And then the plumber connects to that. That way they're purchasing everything they need to meet code.
I understand that.
What's the cost on something like that? Is it a lot more?
Yes, they are. And when we ran the numbers, and this was pre-COVID, so I'm going to, those new meter boxes were about $550. The thing that when I crunched the numbers, we can actually, the service install doesn't change because of the amount of time that we don't have to charge to put all that stuff together. Because we still have to charge for all the parts and everything. And then the time to put it together on site, where if we're putting it all in one thing, they're not going to see really an increase in cost.
We're dealing with new construction. Correct?
Yes, and
replacement.
replacement of old stuff.
Is what the question is.
Now, if we replace old stuff, that's on us. Because that's usually something that we're doing for some reason to improve the system.
I just want clarification on that.
Yes. Replacements are on us unless they damage it for some reason.
Okay. What about someone's doing new construction, they put it on, and there's a breach, it quits working? Is that on them to make the repairs to that? So that the city, does it become property of the city at that point, or?
That would be a good question.
Or are we talking about sidewalks where I paid it will get off the sidewalk?
City ordinance,
Lewis's eyes almost popped out.
chapter 22, we're in chapter 26.
And that would be something that we would have to look at for that. Do we want to own the meter box then?
Mhm.
Because, and if we do, it's actually a good thing because then we control our cutoff, we control our meter, we control our backflow preventer. And then what the customer would be responsible for is everything on the outside of that meter box to their house.
Needs to be some clarification as you move forward.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. What else we got?
Let me write that down, please.
Also like a real price on that, like a
We're pricing them out right now.
post-COVID.
Yep.
You know, one thing you gloss over it, but you know, if the city owns the meter box, they're also liable for the meter box. And when you have a meter box that has a lid, it has a lock on it and it's not locked. If someone steps on that meter box and their foot goes in there and they break their leg, you're liable.
It would hold us liable anyway.
But but almost all the meter lids in this town don't have lock works.
And these new ones, they're all lockable lids.
That's fine. I mean, once you own them, you're gonna own them all. I mean, you're gonna own the old ones too.
We own the meter box right now.
I know we do.
It's just from the meter to the house on the yard line itself, that's the customer's responsibility. Unless we change that. I would still be under the opinion to let them own it, to pay for it up front, just to meet code, and then it would be their responsibility still from the meter to the house. Because then we have all the old service lines, which is the majority, 19,500 accounts that have the old system minus all the new construction.
Because you could get into a lot of money if you have to, depending on cutting those lines and extending yours out, because if it's right next to the sidewalk.
It's that galvanized lines, it's hard to tie onto, and if you cut it right outside the box, then you have to go further.
Yeah.
Fix it there, and then it breaks again, you go further, and then we assume liability by assuming that responsibility even outside the meter box.
So that's something I've got that written down to dig into.
Counselor Foster.
Well, and that's one of the things that question I have is when we came up with the our new meters, we made the customer responsible for that meter, even though it's in the box. In our ordinance that we wrote, and that the problem I had with it was the fact that someone else could come damage it, and we're going to hold the homeowner responsible for the actual radio and all the FM and that, when it's not actually within their ability to lock it up because the city has to be able to get to it.
Then that never made it into the book.
Because it was something that was passed against, because I fought it, but it was still passed.
Because right now the city is responsible from the customer side of the meter, from where the meter ends back into the street.
And it was part of the thing was we kept saying that some of the customers were trying to mess with the radio or mess with the shut-offs and all that stuff. So it was written into it. I don't know if it didn't get to the book. I don't know why. But it was one of my problems I had with it. Because that's my statement was, if I'm going to be responsible, then I'm going to lock it up to the point where y'all can't get to it either.
I think those game cameras we there that took a picture when somebody got their tools.
Yeah.
Well,
And we really haven't had a problem with it.
Well, that's good.
That's what we're trying to do, is clean up this ordinance.
Yeah.
That way it reads correctly. There's a lot of old information on the current ordinance is outdated.
Right.
And no longer what we do as operators now. So we want to just revise all of the ordinance, get it cleaned up with everybody's input.
And it makes sense, and I appreciate it, but it was one of the things that I fought that got passed. I guess it didn't get to
When I talked to Parker, he said that there's some stuff floating out there that never got codified. So that's why his suggestion was to do a repeal and replace.
Okay.
And just start brand new.
Okay. All right, move forward with what?
Okay. Number 8, shall we continue to offer irrigation meters? Irrigation meters, people with larger lots will use those because then they don't get charged the higher sewer fee. Because your sewer fee is based on the amount of water you use.
Everywhere.
Okay.
And it really doesn't cause us, it's just one of the questions that came up.
Well, it's for people, if you have an irrigation meters, and encourage people to keep their homes looking nice.
Yeah,
That's,
if you have one of those bigger lots, it helps a lot.
it does make some difference. So I like the problem looking pretty.
Number 9, when the city is authorized to discontinue service. Non-payment, failure to meet applicable provisions of the law, violation of rules and regulations pertaining to the utility, willful or neglected waste of water due to improper or imperfect pipes, fixtures, appliances, or otherwise, tampering with any meter, seal, valve, or equipment controlled, regulated, the supply of the utility service, theft or diversion and or use of service without payment thereof, and vacancy of the premise. And one other that we would add to that is anytime a certified operator feels that there's a threat to the system.
Yeah, you need that.
Just
So how do you-
that's really kind of broad.
How do you determine willful or neglect waste of service due to improper and imperfect pipes, fixtures, appliances, or otherwise? I'm not open.
Perfect example.
I'm not opening the front door to let city to come in.
Perfect example. We have a customer right now up on North Union that has a $24,000 bill. They got shut off because they didn't pay it. They went in and made a payment arrangement and said, oh, well, we've had a leak that we've known about forever. We just didn't want to fix it. Well, the check that they wrote as part of their payment arrangement, of course, bounced. So we went back and shut them off. And we spoke to the lady again, and I spoke to her months ago because they had a leak. She goes, yeah, we're just not going to fix it. And there's not much you can do about it. Well, yeah, there is.
Where's the water going?
Into the ground.
Oh, snap.
That happens all the time.
Is it flooding the streets?
Nope.
Is it ruining anything that the city touches?
Doesn't cause us any problems right now until there's a sinkhole that opens up and swallows the apartment complex. And it could, there could be toilets in there that are leaking. There's a number of things. But when they come out and say, yeah, we know, and we're not going to do anything about it. Or when you drive by and somebody has a sprinkler that the sprinkler heads broke off and it's spraying out into the road. And you go and tell them and they say, well, so Sonic up north, perfect example of this. I stopped up there 3 times and told the manager, you need to fix your sprinklers. They're flooding the intersection up there. We've gotten complaints. 3 times I stopped up there. The 4th time I stopped up there at lunch and shut off their water. That got their attention. All of a sudden, there was a sprinkler contractor up there fixing their sprinklers.
I can't say that because I live at the basement. I see the sprinkler head throwing water in the street all the time. So should we turn off the city's water too?
Well,
Good job. See it every day.
that is a visit.
I see it every day.
And with the water conservation stuff that we're going to be talking about here. And that's one of the problems is the city is guilty of a lot of this stuff too.
Sure.
And, Jim Burris is always complaining about how much I'm charging him for water. Wait till I start putting some fees on top of it. So, I need to get their attention too.
All right, moving on. I don't think we'll fix that today.
So this last question,
Hey.
this threat thing, we need to talk about that a little bit.
The which one?
The threat of that last one you wanted to add.
Okay.
How you want to say that before you, because I don't like what you, I mean.
What it is,
Ambiguous, is that the word?
and this is
Right.
authorized under EPA rules now. If a certified water operator, which there's what, like 10 of us, sees something or finds something that is possibly damaging to the system, we have the authority to stop whatever that is.
No, I'm just in the way you, I understand, I understand the purpose. I just be careful on the way you word it.
Yes, and then it'll.
The way you said it just didn't sound.
And what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll actually take the wording out of what the EPA has
Okay, that's
in
good.
their section.
It just sounded.
I would just like it limited to emergencies, that verbiage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I mean, if it's really broad,
But you, Becky, you don't
and
like.
you get like, you know, if we have like someone who's on a rampage,
And
Right.
there, it says that there has to be potential damage to the system.
Okay.
We stopped at 14.
Okay, this is the hot button one, so this might be where we stop. Rental properties. On rental property, shall the account be required to be in the landowner's name, or can it be in the renter's or leaser's name?
Well, here's my problem.
I'm not going to put in the landlord's name.
I have problems on both sides of this because, and I do have rental properties, but if you have someone who is renting a house and it's in their name and they don't pay for 3 months, they leave or evicted or whatever, and I go fix my property and then I go to put it up, and then the city won't let me turn on the water until that bill's paid. That's a concern that I have for people who own, and I've not had that problem because mine are in my name, mainly because of the nature of it being Airbnb. But
They don't take care of the yard.
exactly, I'm taking care of all of that. But also in the state of New Mexico, I have reservations and concerns. One reason that we went to Airbnb versus traditional, just long-term rentals is because when you have someone who quits paying or is doing damage to your property, it's a very difficult process of getting them out, removed. So is there a requirement by the state? I don't know this. I'm asking, is there a requirement by the state that if I own the property and I need them evicted, do I have to keep water going there? Can I have it shut off?
That has been a long and fruitless discussion with the attorneys.
So my question to you, can God build a rock he can't lift?
Yeah.
There's not a right answer. So whoever can, whoever can figure that out, can God build a rock he can't lift? Who's supposed to be in charge of this? Because in my opinion, it should be the leaser. They're the ones that they're using it, but at the same time, if they are not willing to pay and I'm owning the place and they finally leave and I got to put someone else in there and they've got a $1,600 bill with the city of Roswell. And the city of Roswell says, I'm sorry, until that's paid, we're not turning that meter on. Well, the meter didn't belong to the leasing.
And the problem that you run in with that is all the landlord has to do is issue the city a letter that says, I'm not responsible.
With the
And then we can't put a lien against them.
well, I can almost see the flip side of that, because I can see where a landlord is derelict in duty and not paying their bill and your water gets shut off and you can't call the water department.
Both sides of that.
Yeah.
And we've had
It's
a
a
lot
real
of
pickle.
those. We've had a lot of those during the shutoffs, especially on commercial properties. We go and shut off commercial property. And the tenant's going, well, what's going on?
Right.
Well, your landlord hasn't paid the bill in
And they
6
can't
months.
fix it.
Well, let me know when you get back from visiting in Asia to the Tibetan monk and he gives you the answer as to what we should do.
But we're having a lot of difficulties with this right now. And what it is people will come in and say, and they'll switch it into somebody else's name that's in the house. And then we can't do anything about it because the landlord will issue a new lease to this other person. And then we don't have any choice but to give them service.
Well, at the same time, though, you don't want to make it so hard. There are people who are renting homes, and we need rentals.
Yes.
We absolutely need rental. There are people who are hardworking people who are just not at a place to be able to own property. It's just where things are. We need rentals for job force and everything. You don't want to make it so hard on those who are going to be landlords to just say, you know what, I'm out of that. This is,
So
difficult to do business.
So can you collect from the cities around us, let's say Hobbs, Carlsbad, Artesia, Ruidoso, Clovis, see what they're doing? And then bring that back to us and we can have a
Yeah.
better thought of what they're doing? Because as an owner of properties, I want my yards nice looking. My personal yard, it's in the middle of a hiatus, but the one downtown has to look nice. And if I lease it out and that person decides not to pay that extra for that yard,
It's going to do damage to your
it's
property.
going to do damage to my business. So
And I have talked to a lot of landlords lately, especially during this shut off stuff. And it's 50-50. It really is. It's on how they like it. And everywhere that I've worked, this has been the most contentious part of any ordinance rewrite.
can you do two? Can you do a 10A and a 10B, or however you want to do it? One for the landlord and one for the leasee. If the landlord writes a contract and it's a contract for the renter, that's how it has to be. The renter needs to pay for it if it's in the contract. If it's not written in the contract, and they have to bring the contract to us. You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then vice versa, if the leaseor, if the one that owns it and would rather them pay it, they have that written too.
Our problem is the way that state law is written. If the landlord decides that he doesn't want to pay any back stuff from a rental property, we can't lien the property. And we don't have any choice once they have made the contract.
From state,
Well,
from state trumps city. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a reason that we actually have to make a decision? I mean, not saying we should make a decision, but I mean, is this not something that could be left open for the land, the landlord and the tenant to decide as far as how they want to actually run?
I think that's part of, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I think that's part of what Counselor Best was trying to say is that if the landlord chooses that, nope, I want control of it, he can do so. He brings in that contract to show this is the way he's doing it. And then there's the outline of that responsibility if he's going to have the account or she. If it's going to be tenant run, then there would be, these are the rules that go into place.
So, I mean, because it's a pickle. So really, I mean, at the same time, why put ourselves out there? I mean, I don't understand the actual, huh?
They're just asking, does that happen?
So I should basically, it's at the determination of the land, or renter, and I would leave it open. Because is there a reason that one is better than the other, the landowner or the?
depends on if you want to get the ability to ultimately get paid.
Okay.
And like I said, that's what we're having problems now is a lot of people are just going, I'm not going to pay it. It's a rental. You can't do anything to me.
Right.
So they know that? Most of them landlords know that?
These guys are smart.
That's their career, is cheating the system.
We have found new ways of cheating the system in the last 20 days that you would not believe.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Counselor Foster, before we moved on?
The other sticky issue, I'm a landlord. I'm renting a property. The water's in the renter's name. Can I even check to see if they're making payments?
No.
See, it's
Right.
it should have it so that I could see that first of all, I need to see if I have a leak in that system. It's my property. So if a sinkhole drops my house in, that's, but the landlord doesn't have the ability to check on, because it's in the other person's name. But this is state. So I don't think we're going to solve it, but I do think there needs to be some way and I don't know if they could do it in the lease
If they have a lease and they have the release of being able to see the utilities,
Well,
and we would be able to do it.
Yeah, that's.
One of the things that we finally worked out in Spearfish was that if it was a rental property, it had to be in the landlord, it could be in the landlord and the tenant's name.
That's what I was going to recommend, because it's actually very difficult, because my husband's name is on the house, but they wouldn't let me put my name anywhere near it when it came to the water department. If I call and I'm the one that pays the bill, I can't even, so I have to send them in there to fix the problems. And that's
We're fixing that too, so.
that's why I actually think there should be an and allowed on those accounts.
So there's some input on that.
Okay.
I'll start moving forward.
And I'll see how some of the other cities are working through this too.
Number 11.
Number 11, fees and charges for outside city limits. Right now, we use the 2 times the local price rule. Are we still comfortable with that?
The covering.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer, as a conservative, I don't mind charge me whatever's necessary to get the services I need to be paying for the product I'm receiving. I don't need to be paying for mine and 3 other people's.
When we make these hookups outside the city limits, we very seldom have anybody complain about it.
Yeah, okay. 12.
12, do we continue with the leak adjustment, or should the customer be responsible for all water that goes through the meter?
Well, I would, now, how do I say this? I may have had a different feeling about this a few years ago, but when we were sold these water meters, everybody said that it would automatically detect the leaks and that we would have the ability to to take care of things quickly. And I know when I was running for office 2 years ago, knocking on doors, I came to one lady's house and she had about that deep, her yard came in together, it's about that deep in it. And she was an elderly lady and didn't know, what was going on. And had been running for a significant amount of time. She had a massive leak, so I don't know how to feel on that. If we had the ability to control it better, I would have a different feeling about it.
What I would recommend is that we leave it like it is right now until we can get a better handle on the software.
Okay.
We have a decent policy right now that it works. It's cumbersome, but we can help out the customer.
13.
Shall realtors and title companies be held liable for unpaid utility accounts on a home sale? It should be the responsibility of the title company to clear that bill before the home is sold.
Amen.
The title companies have a duty to do that, but we don't hold their feet to the fire.
I say hold their feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you've got much.
I don't think I have much leverage on the realtor, but I do on the title company.
14. I was going to say, I don't know. I don't think the word realtor even needs to be in there.
Okay. Number 14, shall we charge for after-hour service calls for items that are not the fault of the city?
Never be the fault of the city. What are you saying?
Oh, no. And that's one thing with my guys, if it's our fault, we own up to it. But we go out a lot.
I feel that would be sensible.
We had a lady call the other night. I don't have water in my house. Go, okay. So we send the guy out and find out that she did have water in her house, but she didn't have water in part of her house. And that was the city's fault.
Well, you need to charge her for a plumber's fee, the fuel.
Why? If it wasn't her fault.
It was her fault.
It was her fault.
The city's part.
Yeah.
You said it was
The city's service was fine.
Oh, okay.
You would not believe that we get called out because somebody doesn't have hot water. And the city provides hot water. And I want my hot water.
Okay, but there's a huge assumption that people understand all concepts that you do. And I mean, I get what you're saying, and there is some onus and responsibility on people, but we also have a lot, a community of people who may not actually be able to afford to pay those kind of fees all the
So
time.
are we going to start paying their plumbing fees? Because the rule says everything on your side of the meter is yours. If we come and we find that it's ours,
But you have to actually come out to find out whose it is. Because my point is I'm sorry, but I don't study what part of my water it goes here and there. And if I have an issue, I mean, I had a leak forever. I called you guys 5 times and it wasn't until you came out, I wasn't sure if it was mine or yours. So, I mean, we can't assume that everybody understands that process. I don't.
And when we had this discussion up in Spearfish, what we went out and did was we got with the gas company and the power company, and we started going out and giving in services. And we would show people, this is how you shut off your gas. This is how you shut off your water. This is what the power company does and all that kind of stuff. And you would not believe how that helped.
Exactly, yeah.
We would go out to any of the clubs or anything like that that would give us 15 minutes. And we had this dog and pony show and people appreciated it because then they could learn something about that.
Right.
And it was funny how many people assumed that the city provided their hot water.
Right. That's kind of my.
So,
But I mean, you can't really tap them, for their lack of education.
yes, but we need to do, if you do something like this, you need to do the education part first.
So are you saying go to every single house and somebody calls you and you do the dog and pony show, or put it in a forum, or put it on social media?
The first thing I'd do is get with our videographer and do one of those short videos and put it on the website.
I think that would reach it. They already said it reached 46% of the people in Roswell.
The other thing that we've got to, and this is part of the water conservation that we'll be talking about, but that water conservation specialist is already going to be going out to talk to these people. The gas company, by law, along with the power company, has to do so much of this public contact too. Let's get together and do it.
All right.
And it works really well.
I still think for your situation with your one lady half and half for hot water, I think a plumber needs to be called out. That is their service to the people of Roswell.
Well, and we can't, that's the other thing that people don't understand. If it's on their side, I can't touch it.
Understood.
If I go in and even turn a valve or something like that, I can lose my operator's license for that.
Let me just say this. You've got 18 points that I've seen just thus far, and I don't know what else you have to present with it. Is it just the 18 points?
It's just those 18 points.
Okay, we're not going to get all of it figured out tonight, I think. So you can see from a consensus of the discussion that there's some concerns and some of that. And I think that's what you're looking for right now, just direct. Okay.
What I'm really looking for is just the feel.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that we've got a feel for some concerns with number 14. And so let's move on to the next.
Okay. So.
Just one moment. Councilman Moore, do you need a short break or we're going to push through this and. Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Water conservation, limitations on use. Does the city reserve the right to limit each property to a maximum daily average used when circumstances warrant? And this is part of the drought contingency plan. So if all of a sudden we get into a drought situation where we have to start the water, where we start an extreme level of water conservation, does the city have the right to say, you can only use so many thousand gallons per month, or we're going to shut you off?
What is statutory on that? What is, I'm confident
this is something that
does it, or is it left strictly to?
It's left to the water purveyor.
Okay. All right. So my next question comes in though, I don't know how much facts there is to it, but it's been told to me for 15 years that Roswell has enough water to service 500,000 people indefinitely.
No.
Okay. I just want to get that myth off the table.
The nice thing about that too is there was people along the Colorado River that said that they would never run out of water. And look at that now.
Okay.
We're still about 80,000 people depending on the industry.
Okay.
When we get into the water conservation, there's too many places around the state that base it just on time of year, temperature, that kind of stuff. We actually have a cooperative thing with Pecos Valley Artesian Conservancy District, where they monitor the depth of the aquifer. And we could actually base our water conservation on actual science. This is where we're at. This is where we're projecting it to be. And they have this information that goes back forever. They can tell us with choosing that, what it's going to be. And it kind of goes into the next, into 16 too. How deep do you guys want to go into water conservation? This is the big,
I think you're
big philosophical.
out of 10 city councilors and a mayor, you're going to have about 18 opinions on that. So
What I put in here also, those guys, they did it fairly restrictive.
well, I would say this. Well, you have to recognize where they are as well. And you have to recognize what's happening there. We're not Alto, so we have to be careful. I would say this, I would want to see what other, not that it's still apples to oranges, but what other communities in circumstances like Roswell are doing. I wouldn't compare us to what Taos is doing.
And it's
Or Albuquerque.
Yeah, Albuquerque, what is it, March or April?
But I would,
They just.
but maybe Carl's bad. I don't know. That's probably, I don't know if that's a good one, but, or Hobbs, or I don't know. But that's what I would do. You need to look at some of that because you get into, unfortunately, I wish we weren't. And I know that I'm going to rephrase what I was about to say. Some of these topics get into more than just common sense, what we ought to be doing. It gets political.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the most political things that you could ever argue about.
I'm agreeing. That's why I'm saying I think we need to be getting our references from more than Alto. Okay, because that's what they're doing is, and the reason they're doing it, I think if I lived in Alto and I was a city commissioner or counselor up there or whatever they call, or county commissioner, whoever's handling their stuff up there, I'd probably be thinking differently.
The other thing is that grant that we'll be talking about here in just a minute.
Going to require some of,
It's going to require some of this.
I understand.
But we're going to be asking for a task force that's going to have citizens involved in writing this. And it might be easiest just to leave this out until they create that document.
Well, we don't have the amount of time to really go through number 16.
Yeah, because what I want to know basically,
I won't get any further than you were when we started.
do you want middle of the road? Do you want none?
I'd like to see what other like-minded communities are doing.
Okay.
Plus that commission, redoing it anyway. So
Yes.
I don't mentor, do you have concerns?
I wanted to extend on that.
Counselor Arnold.
I would actually agree with other communities that are like-minded, but I also, I'd kind of like to know what level of threat we have. As far as,
And that's what this drought contingency plan will tell us.
okay.
That's what's going to help me as well. I may be willing to bite more of the apple if I know Death Valley and we're going to
Right.
start a borax plant next month,
Yeah.
It's gonna-
And I really think that we have information that other communities don't have with the Conservancy District and the way they monitor the aquifer.
Okay.
And if we base it on that science, then we've got some good stuff. We've got something substantial to stand on.
I would be willing to see some of that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
17.
See, we're getting there.
Should we consider using a tiered rate system to encourage water conservation and discourage wasting water? Right now, we just have a flat rate.
Well,
I think that was kind of, I'm sorry.
there again, for me,
Wait till you get there.
as a conservative, I don't mind paying whatever it costs for me to receive the services. I know it was a very uncomfortable place. Counselor Foster and Counselor Best, were y'all with us yet on the council when we had to raise the water rates by 23%?
2012.
Okay, 2012.
First big vote.
I thought we were going to have police escorts to get out of the building. But why did we have to do that? Because no one
Touched it for 10 years.
for a long
20
time,
years.
20 years, had never touched it. So it had to be done. As a fiscal conservative, you sort of got beat up for raising rates, but there again, as a fiscal conservative, we're not against raising rates or even taxes as far as that goes. We're willing to pay what it takes for me to raise. I don't think that the city should be subsidizing my water bill, okay? But I shouldn't be paying twice as much. You see, that's the difference that I think we have to look at. So looking at some of these penalties and stuff, I will really want to hear some good argument on some of that.
And this is just an example.
I don't want, there again, what the mayor brought in and said, I don't want because of fear, because I really don't know if I'm putting in 1,000 gallons or 2,000 gallons or 3,000 gallons. I don't know. I don't want to stop watering my grass and let it turn to dirt out of fear that I'm going to go over. And I can see people who do live on a fixed income shutting off to the rose bushes, shutting off to the box elder bushes or whatever it may be, in order to ensure that they're not going to go over that level. Don't want that happening either. Right.
Is there a way, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, is there a way for the homeowner to know how much they're using?
Every month. We think so.
Well, I can know how much I'm using, but I can't predict what that bill's going to look like that's going to show me what I just used.
Well, I mean, because, I'm a very competitive person and I'm the type that competes against myself. So if I actually could see, that I'm using
Absolutely.
6,000 to 9,000 and that's where I want to keep it for my budget. But I'm just saying, by the 15th or the middle of the cycle period, to keep track of that.
You might cut back if you knew.
Right, if I knew.
And that's one of the things that we're working through with the software that we have purchased.
Yeah.
So, my electric bill, my father-in-law had to move with us because of his health. In 1 month, our electric bill went to $700.
Oh.
And if I'd have known, it'd been a different thing. So that's where I get concerned.
The other way to look at this is instead of penalizing the bad, you incentivize the good.
So that may be a consideration, but that's something to look at.
Okay.
Anyone else have comments on that before we hit 18? Backflow.
Backflow prevention. The law says that we're supposed to provide backflow prevention to protect our system. We do not have a backflow prevention program.
So why do you put shall the city begin if the law says we need to have?
So move forward with backflow consideration.
The one thing with this is once you hit 50,000 and the EPA becomes aware of us, we will have a backflow prevention program.
Okay, so get ahead of the.
If right now, if we start working on implementing one, we have 10 years to do it.
Let me start.
So, okay.
All right.
I have guidance. Thank you.
All right. So that is with and that's all we're doing is giving guidance on there. Same with the drought contingency plan task force.
That one, we actually need action on.
That right, but
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So discuss a little bit more about it.
I went to the council.
Let me just ask you this. Is that something that you need? Councilor Foster, Councilor Best, will y'all maybe remember, Scott, when we did the airport commission, did the council make an approval for that commission and then the mayor started making appointments, or did the mayor, like other commissions and stuff, just to start the commission?
There's a resolution.
There was a resolution. I couldn't remember. So you're seeking a resolution.
And that's where, this is just the starting point for it.
Okay.
So if we need, that's what we need to do,
Then
then
have a drought contingency plan task force, and if we want to create it through council versus the mayor's ability to have some of these discretions, that's fine. Either way we do it, but we're going to need a resolution if it's going to be an action of council.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what I will bring back to the committee next month.
All right.
The resolution to create that and then have the mayor appoint those members.
Okay.
Are you okay with the membership?
I saw the membership too, from residential to from commercial. What were the other ones? And the point,
A city council member,
Aaron
Aaron from
and Sean.
the district,
that's
and Sean Benedict is the one that I would recommend from the school district.
well, but there again, I would, if you want to say a school district, I'd just leave it as a school district. Let the mayor make the determinations who those people are.
In school.
Absolutely.
Superintendent.
But exactly, yeah. So we can, of course, make those recommendations, but I still thinking, given that authoritative ability to the mayor, whoever.
Okay, but this is required as part of the grant. This is a 2-year grant,
Okay,
$200,000.
so let's jump into that quickly.
We got the notice of funding on that. It's a Water Smart grant. To create our drought contingency plan.
How long do you have?
We have 2 years.
Okay, so you got 2 years to get this done?
Yes.
All right, so you're not in that massive of a hurry, but we need to get it
And
done.
we don't have we have the notice that we probably will get the funding.
Okay, then just bring a resolution back to the committee. We'll send something to full council. Do you have something, Councilor Foster? I can see your minds.
My question is, in that it's a 50/50, so we're going to have to come up with 50,000 or 200,000 per year.
100,000 a year.
Oh,
It's 200,000.
Total is 200.
okay, because I thought it was a $400,000.
No, it is, well, it is 400,000 with the city's 50% match.
Okay, so we have to come up with 100,000, and where are we looking to pull that from?
Some of that is already budgeted money. It's because it'll include some of my wages.
Okay.
And when I ran this past Joe, he said, we'll make it happen.
Councilor Foster, when we start adding fees to you for the amount of water you're using,
That's where I'm just looking at how tight we are on finance right now.
ready.
And I'm like going, and that's where my alarms were going off when I heard
And-
400,000 and we were going to have to match the 400,000. I knew, I was like,
For the committee to understand, some of this is going to overlap. Some of this is going to need to go to I would not feel comfortable with the finalization of that to pay full council until finance committee sees that and looks at that, makes some determinations.
Because the council already voted
to accept.
this grant.
That's true. I forgot.
We did.
So
All right.
that was a resolution that you guys passed back in April, I believe.
So make the resolution for the task force, bring it back to us, and we'll move forward and see what full council decides. Downtown Main Street irrigation.
Resolution.
So that you,
No, Jim Burris is supposed to be here. He didn't show up.
they discuss what you know of it then.
Okay, so and I had the big copies here. Basically in the downtown area, you have the water lines that are running on the sidewalk. And next slide. And then what you have here, here's the detail. Each planter stuff. You have the tap going up into the planter.
Hold just one moment, please. Can you click and just make sure Jim's not online? No, thank you. Okay,
Anyway, as I understand, this is secondhand information that all these broke, so they turned off the system. But I just want to point out that every one of these has its own individual cutoff valve.
That was smart.
what's the process of getting it back to?
I can't answer that. It's like I wanted Jim Burrs, that's his purview. I was invited.
Mr. Chairman, a lot of those leak. A lot of them. And I don't believe any of them are metered.
Okay, well, we're about to go into the fall and winter time where it's not going to be crucial, but I would like something determined before the spring because I don't want to run into a situation that if we're going out it, that some cities have figured this out. I mean, I go to cities and I'm not saying we don't have a beautiful downtown because we do, but you go to places that have, whether it be the hanging plants or the plant boxes or like what we have there, and they're just absolutely overflowing, you know, and they figured out how to keep those things watered somehow. So I don't think we're needing to reinvent something, but if there's a way that, if there's an easy enough fix, I'd like for us to at least look at that. I don't know how much finance we put into getting that done. Did we do those when we redid the pavers?
Yes, we did. I think it was like
How much longer
300,000.
till it's time to redo the pavers again?
Well, the pavers
Are
are,
they in good shape?
Yeah,
we can fix those as they break. We have an item on that.
that's what that crew downtown
Yeah.
is
A
cast
lot of
to
the
do.
problem down there is just maintenance. It's just the ends have come off the hoses and stuff like that. But nobody was fixing it, so we just shut stuff off.
And I believe that there is a meter for the irrigation system.
Is there? It's in the,
They're down on State.
some of the boxes that we looked at didn't have meters in them.
Yeah, but I think we're at the basic tie-in.
Okay.
Okay. So let's bring this back next month and see if we can have staff be able to bring that information.
Okay.
Counselors, it is an action item. Is that okay? I shouldn't have just say, let's do that. Do we have a consensus to,
Need to make a motion or anything, or you want?
this consensus would be fine.
I agree.
I agree.
Counselor Best?
What are we agreeing on?
Okay, all right.
Back next month.
So award of the professional services for the Mescalero Bridge design.
Okay, so the Mescalero Bridge design, everybody knows we got funded for that. The agreement mayor's already signed the agreement, Santa Fe signed the agreement. I'm already on the path to get the design going. We went out to 8 vendors on our list. Only 2 submitted proposals and 1 was kind enough to say they were too busy, which was HDR. Basically, what I'm asking you to do is to consider award of RFQ-22-003, project development services for East Mescalero Bridge to BHI of Albuquerque, in the amount of $197,285.56, and tax to be included. And basically what they want to do is want to have them redesign the new structure that will be there, which is 2 concrete boxes, some roadway approach, and that kind of barrier and that kind of stuff.
How much did the governor give us?
1.723,
Say it again.
1,723,000. So basically that's going to leave us at about $1.5 million to build the bridge,
You
which
think that we're going to be in that?
we're going to be in that ballpark. So 1,723,000 was my estimate back in, right after the 4th of July.
Quick question. On the paperwork, it says without GRT, but you said it is with taxes.
No, that's, but I'm asking, we will add GRT when we do the PO.
Okay, thank you.
My quick question is, there's 2 prices. In the listing, it's 198. In the actual writing, it's 197.
7, 2, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Different number at the top. This number.
Even on the same page.
Yeah, it should be the one, let me look at their proposal real quick. That's me typing it up.
I was thinking you had added the GRT, but then I realized, no, the GRT.
No, GRT
Way more
way more than that. I didn't want to add the GRT because they're 2 different tax rates.
Right. Because it's outside the city limits.
Well, they're looking page 112, it's $198,000.
198. That's okay.
Oh, this one.
Okay.
8.
Any questions, any more questions or concerns on this request? If not, I would entertain a motion that we send this RFQ for BHI corporate.
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
I would like to move to consider awarding RFQ-22-003 project development services for East Mescalero Road Bridge replacement to BHI Inc. of Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the amount of $198,285.56 in GRT to be included with PO requisition to be added on full council.
Okay. Just make sure we understand that is RFQ 22-003. Yeah, and this is what you said. We got a difference here. All right, did you say for consent or just a full council?
Full council.
Okay. Be heard by full council. We have a second?
If it's just an approval, I can't do this. The number 2.
I'm open
Just
to
make
it.
it easy.
I just, a
Number 2.
lot of times the financial stuff, because if we don't run it through finance committee, I like it open for discussion, but I I can negotiate.
It is eligible for consent. It's your decision.
What's that?
Committee, it is eligible.
Okay.
It's up to you, committee.
Yeah, actually, we could put it on consent and then someone
they
can
wanna-
pull it.
If they would like to.
Yeah.
So the motion is to send to full council consent.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to the next item, the Virginia Park Project. ITB.
Okay, so, yeah, this is the Chisholm Park, the old Chisholm School. We call it the South Virginia Park because that's what the legislation called it. So we're going by the funding South Virginia Park. So what happened, we actually had 4 vendors, contractors pick up plans, but only one submitted a bid. And if you look at on the screen, that's the park layout. So the irrigation, the dirt work and all that, which is the green and the grass, that was your base bid. And then added alternate number 1 was the concrete sidewalk and the turquoise going around the perimeter to make a walking path. We were just adding concrete to the existing concrete sidewalk there to make it a 10-foot sidewalk so they could walk. And then added to alternate number 2 was, number 2 was the basketball court. So my recommendation, and if you remember back in June, you guys gave us an extra 200,000, 205,000 so we could continue with this project. Well, my recommendation right now is to go with the base bid and the basketball court and not do the sidewalk. Just, to me, the kids are, the kid activity is a little bit more important. And
Cut off what portion of sidewalk?
the turquoise,
Turquoise?
all the turquoise
Forever?
Well, for the time being.
And again, I'm looking at it from it's a middle of the road alternate
And
recommendation.
the purple would still be put in, correct?
Yes, that would be the ADA access to get into it.
Is there any way to do gravel instead of sidewalk, or is that more just the same amount?
Gravel doesn't make ADA.
Can't do it with wheelchairs.
Just, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. But we talked about concrete, the pavers. Pavers no longer make ADA either. Have to fix them.
Counselor Foster, I know this has been sort of a passion for you. Give you the opportunity to start.
Well, my thing is get the park there. At whatever level we can add to it later if we need to. My major push at one time was just to even get grass planted there, just so that the kids had some place that they could go to play. This area has been far too long. The kids have to play in the street. And I've had students who have broken arms because they didn't have a place to play. They were playing in the street and they fell. And so
And based on that, Councilor Foster, on page 145 committee, my recommendation, the middle of the road recommendation, I'll still need another $26,884.76.
So, but they still don't have the playground area, right?
no,
The playground area, we've already bought it. We've already bought it. So they'll have the grass, playground area and the half court.
And this.
and they have.
What we're not building is the turquoise sidewalk.
And we have received $500 donation to help with the half of the basketball court already. And so we do have some outside funding, but not, I mean,
I just want the committee to know that my recommendation, we still got to ask for $26,000 to even get that middle of the road. Otherwise, we're just going to build just the grass. And that would be $520,000, which would be underneath the 545, which council to date has approved.
What did you say you need 20 what? 20?
It's on page 142.
And where's the recommendation of the 20K, 26K to come from?
Right.
I have no recommendation
Financial
on my budget.
consideration.
You said, where would they think?
Well-
the money's from?
I can say yes.
What you're saying is please don't take it out of my budget, what you're saying.
We are sitting on an extra 1.8 million of GRT that we've received in the last 3 months. But we also have $194,000 in the parks. But in the parks fund, parks. No, it's not the donation. It's the actual parks curb fund that it's been right around 194 for a while, which it stands to start, once these houses start getting built, it stands to start getting some funding too. But last time
The frontage fee,
the frontage fee,
that,
there was $194,000 in that fee.
So I would say, I'd like to hear from committee members. If we were talking about a 200,000-300,000, I'd say you need to go back and get this figured out. Looking at 26,000, I think that Parks and Rec or whoever needs to make a determination where they're going to fund that from to be able, within the next 2 weeks or so to 3 weeks, to be able to bring back to full council. I don't think I'm afraid of sending to full council, but just under the understanding that everybody understands that full council could vote no, and then got to go back and with whatever money there is and get this park. So I'm not saying that we're making a commitment, but I think that sending this full council.
well, I'll talk to Jim Burris. I mean, again, I wish it was a bit.
I don't mind the middle of the road at 26,000 after all that we put in. We cut so much. Got from that park to begin with, what the initial thing he brought was, I mean, awesome.
We simplified it as much
Yeah,
as we could.
simplified it a lot. So 1,000 is too much to come out of that fund to.
Counselor Best.
Hey, I'm just going to sit back and see if you can get old Bobby to let loose of some money.
Well, let's move forward and just recognize that full council can make the decision, and let's just see what go. Counselor Arnold.
I support moving it to full council
Okay.
for discussion.
Okay.
Are you, so for when I do the abstract to go to council, are you considering my middle of the road to go to council?
Yes.
And then from there, it starts the discussion, kind of like we did?
I would say that with the as the motion is made, I don't know that the technical term is middle of the road,
Right.
but
The amount of.
Well, I have it written out, action requested, and your board and committee action, it's already written out for y'all.
Mr. Chair, would that actually include where the 26,000 is going to come from?
they'll need to bring it, I'd just say for clarification, I'd say part of the motion would be, and that staff determines best practice for that to come before council, and then council can always make that change and say, no, we want it to come from here. But at least a recommendation from staff, that's where that will come from.
And I'll follow that up with Mr. Burris.
Is that clear? Is that clear as mud?
The frontage.
Frontage fees for parks.
So
Jim, hold on to that.
give me just one moment here. There would be the award of the 22, correct, or 23?
It's 23 fiscal year.
Okay, it is fiscal year. So was the one that we just passed then, or to send forward, should it have been 23?
Correct.
So I went the opposite way. Your motion was for 22, but that's the way it was written. So for clarification, let's just stop here and fix that real quick. Just friendly, it should be 23.
The last one?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me 1 second to get back.
So 94, page 94. I caught it, but caught it the wrong way. Okay, where am I at? Page number
94?
94.
Mhm. It should be RFQ 23.
94, that should be RFQ 23-003.
Okay, so
So I think we're okay as is, as long as we clarify your.
it is actually, Mr. Chair, can we amend
Yeah,
my
that's
previous motion for the award of RFQ -22-003 and amend it to RFQ -3-003?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay, I just like things cleaned up. Okay, so the recommendation of the council on this one would be, in my opinion, whoever makes the motion, but ITB 23-002 for the South Virginia Park project to include the base bid. Now, the additive alternative 2 would be the removal of that portion, correct?
And alternative 2 would be the basketball court.
Correct, right, but it would not be inclusive of the sidewalks, correct?
Right, because the sidewalk itself is additive also number 1.
Correct, okay? Is that clear? Okay. In other words, he's made it very easy for you to make the motion.
Mhm.
To make motion, consider the award of the ITB 23-002 South Virginia Park project to include the base bid and the additive alternate to Constructors, Inc. in the amount of $571,884.76, which includes GRT, the full council, including the shortfall of $884,000.76.
So, and it's not consider to award, but it is, the recommendation is to award, correct? Oh, okay, all right. Do we have a second?
Is that before full council?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, ma'am. Yeah, no consent on this one.
No, that's too much money. They're not gonna go.
second.
We have a motion, we have a second to send to full council for the determination with a recommendation of due pass on the ITB 23-002 as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Garden Bridge 2 project.
The North Garden Bridge 2 project, I'm asking committee to recommend considering rejection of all bids
Absolutely.
for ITV 23-005 North Garden Bridge project, North Garden Bridge number 2 project. This is the one right there by livestock sales. You can see that the prices came in way higher than my engineer's estimate. Way higher, but as I look at it, if you go down, if you look at item 618000 traffic control management.
Wait, say that again.
618000 traffic control management.
Yeah.
So that, and they both bid it up high. Traffic control management is just keeping up with the traffic control diaries and inspections.
Did they understand that?
They understand that that's come on I call this an unbalanced bid, but some of the numbers I see don't make sense to me. And then as much as the engineer's estimate is off, and it's just my recommendation that we just reject it and analyze it more thoroughly, check the market more thoroughly, and we'll rebid it in January. And that also gives me a time to reanalyze the budget. I have to go to mid-year budget adjustment to come up with more money that council will.
Okay. All right. Discussion. I'll entertain a motion from the floor to send forth the full council for rejection.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to consider rejection of all bids for ITB -23-005 for North Garden Bridge 2 project. Does this have to go before consent? Can it go on consent?
It can go on consent.
To be added to consent?
Let me say one thing, and it's not because of the way you just made the motion. It seems to be a normal thing in all the committees with a lot when we make, and we say that because of what is said here, But when we make the motions, what we're doing is we're making a motion to send to full council with the recommendation to reject. To consider rejection means a totally different thing. So we're actually making a recommendation to reject. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
I will keep that.
And no. I'm just trying to help us all. If you knew how many years it took me
No.
to understand.
It won't take me as long. So I
You're
appreciate
smarter than me. Okay, so the motion, as I understand, is to recommend to full council to reject all of the bids for the ITB 23-005, correct? And
Yes.
second, okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, moving on.
Item
to the
number 10.
protection resolution.
Yes, item number 10, the DOT selected the Atkinson Phase 3 project as one of the projects to get awarded at a 95% DOT money, 5% city money, and they are funding it at a total cost of $2,689,000. The good thing about this project, it does include paying for the water line work, which was a big headache on this last one, I believe. Water had to come up with almost $1 million worth of change orders so we know that we're going to replace the water line and it's part of the scope.
Sure.
And it has been approved by the DOT to include that money as well.
Okay.
So we need the resolution 22, I call it ZZ for right now, because we have to have the resolution before the mayor can sign it and we send it back to the DOT to continue the execution of the agreement.
And once again, budgeted.
Yeah. Is it?
And to budget
Has it been budgeted?
it. No,
Okay, that's what we
It was-
need clarification.
there was a placekeeper on the budget that we had put in so many projects, but we didn't know which one was going to be selected.
I agree that 134,000 for the amount of work that we're going to do. But we just need to make for clarification. So where's your recommendation for it coming from? Do you have a recommendation for where the 134 comes
From
from?
the capital projects.
Okay, and that's, yeah, for clarity for the. Okay.
And we did have a number in there, but I can't remember what it was.
I couldn't tell you.
But we did throw some money for the matching funds, but it might have been the 134 because this is the most expensive project.
Okay. Committee members, questions, concerns? Counselor Foster, questions, concerns? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Don't say the word consider.
Yeah, because what we're doing is we're making a recommendation to
Recommendation
approve.
for the council to send the council to approve the resolution 22-ZZ in the support of the agreement with the NMDOT for the Atkinson project CNLP 20032, an agreement for $2,689,000 with 95% and $2,554,550. NMDOT participation and the city's match at 5% for $134,450, should I say, capital.
To be funded from the.
Through capital projects, capital improvement projects.
Okay, so we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second, sending the full council with recommendation to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Infrastructure Committee meeting dates and times. The only thing that I would say is next month, I don't think there's a problem, but in the month of November, just be aware, in the month of November, we land in Thanksgiving week, which is perfectly fine. On the 22nd, I am flying back from Tel Aviv, Israel. I'll be in Israel flying back. So my plane should land in Roswell at 1:30 in the afternoon on the 21st. Howbeit, if there's any problems, because I'm flying through, I think I'm flying through Paris and Miami to get back. So if I run into trouble, that may take me a little bit. How does everyone else's schedule look that week?
Well, the meeting date's the 28th.
28th?
November 28th.
Forgive me, I just looked at my calendar completely wrong. Forget I said any of that. Who cares where I am on the 21st?
That's the right.
You can't make the deadline for your submittal.
So unless the Taliban gets me, then we'll be fine. So any problems with the 28th? So look real quickly on the very last, any problems with the 26th, which is the day after Christmas? I'm just trying to give our staff time to,
Oh, I'm not gonna be here.
I will likely be out of town that week, 26th of December.
Why are you
Yep.
looking, what are you looking at? It said December 19th. What are you looking at?
December 19th. See, there again, I'm going crazy. Again, I have put it in my calendar wrong for all of these.
Going part is what I want to argue.
What did you say?
Going part.
What I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, look on page 63, Cal.
I'm sorry, I didn't pull open my page. I'm just going off of my calendar. What I put in my calendar
It's wrong.
is wrong. Well, that's happened twice in my life. Don't tell my wife.
All right.
I'm wrong a lot. I'm sorry. I did not pull that open to
I'm gonna
look.
do the best of y'all.
All right. Any concerns with any of it? I'm shutting my mouth.
And then probably November, I'll bring back the schedule for 23.
You're fine.
Isn't it November or December? Which one of those do we usually not have a meeting? Isn't it December? One of those we usually don't have.
Yeah, December's a higher likely chance we won't have a meeting.
We usually have a meeting in December.
And
We usually have meetings our committee meetings in December. I'm just saying.
I've always had committee meetings in December. Has it?
Maybe because you're.
And the only thing is with infrastructure,
It keeps going.
Infrastructure
never sleeps.
I'll keep it open just in case.
Okay, all right. Sorry for the confusion. How many of y'all are, their departmental reports, public comments? Is there anyone
Hey,
on?
let me see the slide because I do want to talk on the,
Sure. I don't want to talk about.
no, I just want to show that we got concerns and we did clean them and repainted them all. My special electronics. So I just want you all to know, I've instructed my guys, we're going to do it quarterly. Only 4 times a year. So
I don't like the stickers.
we were told to get them cleaned up.
No, I don't like stickers at all.
But I'm not going to send the guys out all the time. I'm going to do it quarterly.
To repaint or just?
To repaint or you just, you want,
Remove and repaint as needed.
that's free thing to get them off?
Well, I will go back then and say, thank you. You know for a fact, I was not happy even when
I don't like the sign. Look, I don't like the sign, so.
Because the paint was
Probably been painted a lot better.
better than they were, yeah.
Yeah, so thank
That was the special electronics crew,
Okay.
guys that take care of the lights.
Well, fantastic.
Because they're the ones that go up, climb up there and change out those batteries and stuff.
All right, fantastic. I'm sorry I cut you off. Thank you. Is there anyone online for public comment? Let's just look real quick. I know we had Rita with us. She is gone. We have a guest. I don't know who that is. If you're online and you desire to speak with public comment. Anyone with us in here? All right, council members, anyone? Okay, then the meeting is adjourned at 6:28. It's my wife's birthday and I'm supposed to be taking her to supper at 6:30. So
You better run.
don't worry. Janine, is any of that candy got sugar in it? My sugar's dropping.
Oh, I knew it. That's why I got some on it.
See, I was getting confused and my sugar's dropping on me fast. So I'm getting ready.
That's what I was worried about.
Thank you.